Hey, you busy? Mm-mm. Okay, let me run something past you real quick. Unpopular opinion. Healing is uncomfortable. It's ugly. It is not this walk in the park that may be assumed. However, it's so worth it. It's so worth it to get to the other side of what's going on in the inside of you. It is so worth being able to heal voids that have been present for most of your life. And instead of just trying to put a rug over it or hang a picture over the hole within you, you now have the courage and the tools and the backing of the Holy Spirit to lead you, yea, through you walk through the valley of the shadow of death. There is something so beautiful about knowing, yeah, the weapon formed, but it didn't prosper. However, healing takes a certain tenacity and bravery that is not often discussed. If more people were equipped and aware of, you're going to feel an array of emotions, things that you have to give words to that you may not have had to do so in the past. But if people were more equipped for what it was going to feel like and be given accurate expectations, then maybe we would have less broken people in the world. That mantra of just, out of sight, out of mind, that's not true. You can put it out of sight, but your body remembers, and certain things erupt within you when faced with similar circumstances in your adulthood. And so, yet you may not want to discuss it. You may want to put it out of your mind, but it's never completely out of your soul or out of your life. And so, healing is by far the greatest return on investment that you will ever get out of your life. Healing does something that education cannot. You can go to school, you can get your degree. 9 times out of 10, you're never really going to feel like you're getting paid what you're worth anyway. You can go ahead and find the most aligned person in a relationship. If you're honest, you still feel like, you know what, I don't feel like I'm being treated to the degree that I deserve anyway. There are so many things that you can invest in your life, whether it be something tangible like a home or a car, whether it be a friendship or an employer or whatever it is. That the only thing that gives you more of a return on your investment is actually doing the work to heal yourself, to be able to be brave enough to go, you know what? This may be normal to me, but this is not the normal that I want for the rest of my life. This is not the normal that God intended for me. This is not the Jeremiah 29:11 that God has a plan for me in a future and a hope and all these other things, not for disaster. This is not it. And so if I can look at something and be brave enough, even with shaky knees, whatever, go Gideon style with it if you want. The angel came to Gideon and was like, mighty man of valor. He was like, who? He turned into an owl real quick. And so bravery doesn't look like you feel it. Bravery means that you're willing to face it. Period. And I wish that that was more discussed and laid out for people, and because then, oh, how beautiful friendships would be. Oh, how great relationships and family events and everything that has that you dealing or being in relating to other people, how much easier would that be, that you didn't have to deal with other people's trauma, that you didn't have to tiptoe around somebody else's, that's just the way they are, that you didn't have to go ahead and feel like, you know what, because you didn't really have a voice as a child, you became an adult bully. And so like now you taking it to the workplace, places that you know that people are confined, that they can and cannot say anything back to you, that now they can't put their hands on you the way they would have done if this was in the schoolyard. And so now you've taken your act on the road of adulthood, and now everyone who comes into proximity to you has to pay for what happened to you. I noticed that God is more interested and the person that he's building within you than where he actually intends to take you. I mean, to go ahead and take the Israelites the long way only because they were lacking in necessity, the tool of knowing how to fight. It wasn't that he took them the long way because he had to put some finishing touches on the promised land. It wasn't that, oh, you know what, I'm trying to align it so that when they get there, they have good weather and this, that, that. The emphasis was placed on they need to know how to fight when they get there. Because if they don't know how to fight when they arrive to this promised land, then they will be ill-equipped. And any blessing that you're ill-equipped for is an automatic burden. Yeah, please do not show up for this fight for Tyson and you just learned how to throw a rock yesterday. Yeah, that's going to be, so just, unfair and embarrassing. And I hope you didn't ask any of your close friends to watch. And, that's just how that goes there. But when you look at any and everything, the people that he's blessed, David, from shepherd to king, some of the things that you prayed for in your life and he delayed. I think in some regard, we have been deceived to believe, oh, maybe the promise is not ready. No, I'm sorry. Everything has the appointed time. God is trying to get you ready for it. Because sometimes you can deceive yourself in believing, but I'm ready for marriage right now. Ma'am, you have a communication problem. No, when you feel in some kind of way, the way that you handle your anger is not going to be conducive for a long-term relationship. Shouldn't nobody have to walk on eggshells around you? Nobody should have to be a mind reader. You shouldn't have to go out and talk to your friend first and then rehearse what you're going to say. Like, no, there's just some things that you're like, you know what? There's a little chink in the armor, if you're honest. Well, I'm ready for marriage. Sir, you have not cleared out your Rolodex since MySpace. Like, come on, sir. You got people feeling real friendly. You got people feeling like, you know what, there's a possibility in the future. And you have not put up clear boundaries that will let people know, listen, when and if my wife comes, you will be totally in your place. And you're clear on that, right? The answer is no. You got work wives, because you just wanted to be the nice guy. Why? Because you wanted to keep your net open. Why? Because you just wanted to make sure that you were going to catch a fish before this thing is a wrap. And I get it, but she doesn't. Okay. Yeah, you feel like, no, God, I'm ready for the financial blessing. You sure? Because last time we did like a little, bank statement check. It looks like you swipe for a living. Yeah, budget. Do you know the word? Have you become acclimated? Are there some things that you need to go ahead and tighten up? See, the problem is that we register our level of readiness based on how much do I want this? I have a heart's desire for this thing. But that's not how God, he doesn't measure readiness by your heart's desire and your excitement around it. Because even when Samuel was going ahead and was getting ready to anoint one of Jesse's sons, God called David a man after what? His own heart. So David had the heart from the get-go. God was like, listen, I don't choose people by the way that y'all look on the outer side and be like, oh, he's tall and handsome. He's this, that, and the third. Or he's built. He's fit for a king. Because Samuel almost made that mistake with the first couple of older brothers. But God was like, nah, I don't look at humans the way y'all do. I look at the heart. And so David had the heart. A heart after that God can say like, yo, that's me. When you see him, you see me. When you see me, you see him. Like, that's just what that is. But that wasn't enough to transfer him over to king. That was enough to keep him shepherd. You have a shepherd's heart. God can relate to the way that you care for the things that he assigns to you. God sees the thoroughness of how you don't cut any corners when it comes to your sheep. You were even able to say when the Goliath situation came up, no, you don't get it. When a animal comes after my sheep, bruh, like I go with it bare hands and I get my sheep back. And if the animal dare to turn on me, I'm taking clubs to head, sir. And guess what? It's a wrap for everything and anything that comes from my sheep. So God was like, I feel you, because that's how I feel about my kids. So you know what? That kind of heart, like I can relate to that. And the fact that you kind of have a relationship with me too, I like it. But still got some, training to do. So it really got my attention that God is more interested in building the person rather than continuing to lead someone there who won't even be ready by the time that he brings them there. See, oftentimes we think that things are being delayed because, like, oh God, where is it? Oh God, where? That's the wrong question. The right question is, God, where am I at in according to your plan? And if I'm the delay, then make me so sensitive to the instructions and the leading and the guiding of the Holy Spirit that I'm not delaying the promise. Yeah, whatever I need to do, whatever I need to hone, whatever I need to get rid of, whoever I need to go ahead and cut loose, whatever needs to happen, please don't let me be the weakest link. I don't want to be the person. You see what I'm saying? And so in that, I have gone on my own discovery and journey of just healing like totally inside out. Yeah, it's one thing to get the job that you want. It's one thing to live in the house that you want. It's one thing to drive the car that you want. It's one thing to have the relationships, the friendships, the E or the above. But it's another thing that when you lay down, there's no peace. You can still feel certain voids come up. You can still have flashbacks of things that make you feel uneasy. And you like, okay, so what we're going to do, if I had to get my house inspected, if the car had to get inspected before it actually got a chance to even leave the manufacturer, if there's certain criteria that had to be passed for people to even get in close proximity to me, then when's the last time that I've actually done a self-analytical kind of overflow of myself to see like, yo, where am I at in my own personal healing? Yeah, we're not going to let birthdays and Merry Christmases and Happy New Year and all the other holidays continue to roll out when we're still stuck at this place that is way years ago, months ago, situations and seasons ago, and we don't put no healing toward that. Like I could, you know how weird it would be to see a full grown adult, let's just give it an age, 30 years old, and you look down and you actually see that they got a walking shoe on, like not like orthopedic, but like, bro, you should have been, why is your foot that size? Like, it's not enough to carry the weight of your adulthood. When you look at the average, just find the biggest footed toddler that you could. The biggest walking shoe wouldn't even have the capacity to hold up a normal, air quotes, height adult. It will look funny visually. It'll be like, I'm sorry, what size is that? Oh, you go to the kids store. Oh, okay. But you're 6'1". But you're 5'11", but you're five whatever. You're a full adult, but you're still walking around in kid shoes. I need that visual to be seared into your mind because that's how it looks when you refuse to heal something. Because you're scared. Because you don't know what's going to come of it. Or even worse, but actually better, you don't even know how to do it. Yep, but my people perish from a lack of knowledge. Yeah, that's what the Bible says. And so we're going to go ahead and stop saying that we don't know how to do something when we got a whole computer in our back pocket. You sure? Yeah, that's not what we're doing. Now, if this was 1940 anything, I get it. If we were still looking at the black and white pictures, I get it. But not when we can speak to somebody across the world and see them in real time on Facebook. Like, you sure? Yeah, that's not what we're doing. So we're not going to allow ignorance to be the very thing that's having us perish slow. The goal is to make sure that as you're navigating through life, that it's not this thing of having triggers. We're going to swap triggers for tools. We're going to make sure that we're equipped so that everything that has happened to us won't feel like quicksand. Yeah, we're going to make sure that we are no longer oblivious to the things that is eating away at us internally. And we only know it when something comes up. when something happens. Like, listen, I don't know about you. I'm quick on my toes on certain things because I'm from New York. Yeah. But there's a lot of things that I don't want to only have to train like that in real time. I want to have some homework, literally, that I do in my soul. I want to be able to speak to my creator so that he can kind of show me some stuff. And it's like, oh, I don't want to have any kind of breakdowns or lash outs in places that I have to go back and apologize for, because now I didn't even know that that was something that was bothering me, but I had a trigger. And so the only way that I knew how to get out of it was to respond in the hurt that is unhealed. And now I'm embarrassed when I could have been working on that and I could have been free. And the healed part of that flip situation, instead of being embarrassed, it would have been a moment to execute my tool. It would have been like, oh, usually I would have threw something, but I realized this situation needs a screwdriver. And you can analyze the situation, and based on the tools that you accumulated in your soul, now you know what to use. The problem was before you didn't have the tools, so you just threw whatever was nearby. You crying places that it's like, why are you crying here? You getting upset, you raising your voice, making the scene, do whatever it is that your trauma response is. You threw that, you shut down when it's supposed to be, sir, we're waiting for an answer from you. Like, your answer, please. And all healing doesn't take a long time. All healing is not, oh, but I don't want to feel all those emotions. But do you want to walk around life limping in your soul still? Like, do you want to have it where you don't face anything because you treat everything in your past like it was Goliath? Just because it was uneasy and just because it wasn't comfortable doesn't mean that it has the power to overcome and overtake you. That wasn't what that was supposed to be. You were supposed to cross paths with Goliath and feel like, yo, I have enough tools and enough confidence and enough experiences that I truly, truly feel that even though this is a new situation for me, I really feel like I can overtake it. Because what I experienced in my private time, what I experienced as a shepherd. Yeah, everything that I'm doing, nothing that you're doing is in vain. Everything that you're doing is adding up to the next step and the next step, which will eventually lead to the stage of your graduation. And don't you want to hear authentic applause? Where you feel like I really did put in the work and I deserve to be here. You don't want to feel like, oh, okay. I mean, like, no, the best satisfaction is self-satisfaction. Humbly. Where you can look at yourself and you go, I'm proud of me. That's a different kind of flex. I'm not going to hold you. And so you need to be looking up books that associate to the things that are your particular issue. Whatever the Holy Spirit is unctioning, and listen, it will find you. You will find it. And when you do, you will be free. But there's some core questions that you have to ask to get to that level. And when I was thinking about this, I literally was reading Genesis 16 and I was like, bro, this couldn't have been a better illustration biblically. So I want to read about Hagar. So Genesis 16, I read from the NLT version. We're going to start from verse 1. Now Sarai, Abram's wife, had not been able to bear children for him, but she had an Egyptian servant named Hagar. 2. So Sarai said to Abram, the Lord has prevented me from having children. Go and sleep with my servant. Perhaps I can have children through her. And Abram agreed with Sarah's proposal. Of course you did. 3. So Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar, the Egyptian servant, and gave her to Abram as a wife. This happened 10 years after Abram had settled in the land of Canaan. 4. So Abram had sexual relations with Hagar and she became pregnant. But when Hagar knew she was pregnant, she began to treat her mistress, Sarai, with contempt. 5. Then Sarah said to Abram, this is all your fault. I put my servant into your arms, but now that she's pregnant, she treats me with contempt? The Lord will show you who's wrong, you or me. 6. Abram replied, look, she is your servant, so deal with her as you see fit. Then Sarai treated Hagar so harshly that she finally ran away. 7. The angel of the Lord found Hagar beside a spring of water in the wilderness along the road of Shur. 8. The angel said to her, Hagar, Sarai's servant, where have you come from, and where are you going? I'm running away from my mistress, Sarai, she replied. 9. The angel of the Lord said to her, return to your mistress and submit to her authority. 10. Then he added, I will give you more descendants than you can count. Pause. Hagar, my Lord. Wow, ma'am. I'm going to try to, Holy Spirit, help me break it down the way that you gave it to me. Most of the time, things that we're running from were things that were unfairly put on us. Most of the time, the thing that we don't want to face, the thing that just gives us a traumatic kind of whatever, we may have been in the environment, we may have aided to it in some degree, but in our hearts of hearts, the outcome and what happened, we like, bruh, I didn't ask for this. This is a lot. And oftentimes, the only way to get free from it is to run from it. And a lot of us learned that defense mechanism because we had no other tools at the time. We have flight or fight. And so that's pretty much the two things that we were doing. And most of the time you didn't choose fight because whoever was oppressing you, you're already sized up in your mind, be it title, be it relationship, be it whatever it is, that you won't stand a chance trying to fight this person. And so you fled, whether it was physically, whether it was emotionally shutting down, whatever it is, but you ran, much like Hagar. Here Hagar is minding her good Egyptian servant business. And she's doing the servant thing and she's blah, blah, blah. And she's not even present when this conversation is being had between Abram and Sarai. And next thing you know, Abram's coming in the tent and it's like, where your clothes? Oh, you finna get me a baby? Today? Where are we taking my servanthood to the next level? Because all this time it's just I've been cleaning the bathrooms and making sure that the shit. So I'm about to become a mother for the first time through you. Okay, so do I have a say? Can I be like, I don't really, can we? No, we're not going to do any of that. But it didn't seem like they added her to the equation. But she was very much an important variable to it. And so it's like, okay, so Abram didn't really give no chat back. He was like, cool. You said I can do this and you ain't gonna be mad? Absolute. But then something happens. Once Hagar gets pregnant, then she starts to act funny with Sarai. And I'm pausing because I'm getting a real live download. It's hilarious to me that we always try to, the ones that have not learned their lesson, I ain't going to say we, but the grandbabies who try to take God's objective into their own hands, you do not realize the following. You do not have the power to control both the variables and the outcome. Because I'm sure this was going to play out way differently for Sarah. It was going to be, look, get her pregnant. Everything's going to be fine. She's going to give this baby to me the way that Hannah went ahead and was like, here, God, you can have it, even though that happened after us. But that's a reference I'm going to use now. And what's going to happen is this baby's going to be calling me mommy and doing all the stuff. And Hagar's just going to, change the dirty diapers and stuff. And she's not going to have any emotional connection to this child. She's not going to have any mothery, paternal instincts to do anything. I'm going to take this baby and this baby's going to be mine. And we're all going to smile for the Sears photos, right? Ma'am, you didn't quite see. The problem is when you create these images in your mind, you don't factor in that it can change because the variables are not constant and you can't control all outcomes. So flipping the switch, okay, Hagar, when she became pregnant, I'm sure it was like, bro, I didn't want this. And I didn't want my first baby by you, sir. Stinking. You said it probably was like, no, a lot of things. She's hormonal. She feels different against all y'all. Like, who knows? But then Sarah got the nerve The initiator of the plan got the nerve to go to Abram and be like, it's all your fault. He was like, okay, so what you not going to do? Because I can't. This is like biblical documentation of cattiness and pettiness, and I'm just not. So here's what we're going to do. You deal with her the way you see fit. Leave me alone. So Sarah was like, cool. The next best plan I have is to treat her so terribly that, I don't know, she give birth early. Nope. You treated her so harshly, she ran away, ma'am. That's what the Bible said. And here comes the encounter of the healing questions, getting to the core of what needs to be asked so that you can be healed from it. 7. The angel of the Lord found Hagar beside a spring of water in the wilderness along the road to Shur. 8. The angel said to her, Hagar, Sarai's servant, where have you come from and where are you going? I'm running away from my mistress Sarai, she replied. Pause. Hagar, I know your name. Sarai's servant, I know what you do for a living. But where have you come from and where are you going? Where have you come from? You're going to have to answer that when you're dealing with healing or unhealed wounds. What was the issue? What was your family of origin? What was the church hurt? What was the supervisor that put that chip on your shoulder for all employment to come? What was the relationship that just left this salty taste in your mouth that you can't even taste the organics of whatever God is trying to bring into your life at this point? It still has remnants of him. It still has remnants of her. No matter what it is that you're doing, you just cannot get to the other side of it. And so oftentimes you need to have a time out. You need to have a spiritual time out and just ask yourself, where have you come from? The second question, and where are you going? Most people do not realize when you look around and do a 360 over your life, you are here because of where you've come from. And in a little while, if you don't get a good kind of idea of where you're going, then you will also find yourself in foreign land. You ever ran out of one relationship and went to another and you're like, oh, how did I get here? Very much giving Deborah Cox. You ever left one friendship and felt like, all right, I'm just going to want to be around people who are like, oh, how did I get in this group of people? Yeah, where you are going is very much connected to where have you come from. And the problem is a lot of people can identify that. A lot of people don't want to identify that. A lot of people have shame associated with it to the point that Hagar couldn't even really, she couldn't answer it. Her response to being asked, where have you come from and where are you going? Her response is, I'm running away from my mistress Sarai. Okay, so that kind of answers where have you come from, but it didn't answer where you're going. Where are you going? All you known is to be her servant. As a matter of fact, the Bible went ahead and let me know that you are an Egyptian servant. So where are you going? Do you have family somewhere else? Like, you getting ready to fly to the States? Like, where are you? And when you run off of emotions, you'll find yourself in destitute locations. So the angel knew, I can't let you have a future that the only reason why you're there is because you were fueled off of emotions. I can't let that happen. So I'm getting ready to give you some advice that it may not look like what you want, but I'm getting ready to give you a promise associated with it. The angel of the Lord said to her, verse 9, return to your mistress and submit to her authority. 10. Then he added, because if he would have just paused, if he would have just stopped there, it would have been like, bruh, you don't even understand how my ankles are hurting right now. Like, seriously? Because I can't. But I love that God knows us enough to know that we need something to look forward to. We need a promise of the pain. We need to know that our ashes is going to turn to beauty later. We need to know that this is all not going in vain. God, if I'm going to be brave enough to go back into the situation that you called me out of, then don't let me come out of that looking the same. When he called Moses to go back to Egypt, he came out with millions of people. He came out being a leader. He left in fear, went back in obedience, came out a leader. And so if God is asking you to go back to something, you can't look at it like, you want me to talk to her after you want me to call up, you want me to go ahead and, you want me to, wait a minute, before you get emotional on the instruction, why don't you wait to see if God is also giving an additional addendum to a promise? Yeah, he's aware that, listen, he's aware of your name, Hagar. He's aware of your circumstance, Sarai's servant. He understands. And so he's not asking you these questions because he's oblivious. He's asking you these questions so that you can get clarity to be like, why am I here? How did I get here? How did I get this job? How did I get in this relationship? What made me live on this side of town? What? Yeah, you have to start asking some questions and tracing back what fueled you to your current location. So here's the angel. 10. So 9 first. The angel of the Lord said to her, return to your mistress and submit to her authority. 10. Then he added, I will give you more descendants than you can count. 11. And the angel also said, you are now pregnant and will give birth to a son. You are to name him Ishmael, which means God hears, for the Lord has heard your cry of distress. 12. This son of yours will be a wild man, as untamed as a wild donkey. He will raise his fist against everyone, and everyone will be against him. Yes, he will live in open hostility against all his relatives. 13. Thereafter, Hagar used another name to refer to the Lord who had spoken to her. She said, you are the God who sees me. She also said, have I truly seen the one who sees me? 14. So the well that was named Beer Lahai Ro, which means well of the living one who sees, it can still be found between Kadesh and Beerdad. 15. So Hagar gave Abram a son, and Abram named him Ishmael. 16. Abram was 86 years old when Ishmael was born. Now here's my thing. What the angel said wasn't good to me. I don't want, like, what? He getting ready to be what? Should I beat him? Like, what kind of punishment am I doing? Gentle parenting? Like, I'm sorry. I heard what you said, but I also heard what you said, sir. What you mean open hostility against all his relatives? Against who? His cousins and them? Like, there's just some stuff that you like, well, I caught that. I was listening. I was active listening that time. What happened there? But then, however the angel was able to communicate, whatever he was able to say to her, Hagar for the first time was healed. There was a clarity there. 13. Thereafter, Hagar used another name to refer to the Lord who has spoken to her. She said, you are the God who sees me. And isn't that the goal? Isn't it the goal to want to understand your uniqueness, your unique circumstances, the customized situations that you look around and you don't see nobody else is dealing with a Sarai. No one else has a deal with, Abram, and nobody else had, the other servants didn't get chosen. So how come I was it's all these other different things that try to make you feel isolated, try to make you feel misunderstood, try to make you feel like you were just the one that was forgotten about. But what you don't understand is that on the other side of you being healed, you will be able to, just like Hagar, say, you are the God who sees me. You are the God that never leaves, never abandons. You are the God that is a promise keeper. You keep your promises. You said, test me and I will show. Like, there's just so many promises, God. And sometimes I look at all those promises like, well, how do you remember to keep them all? But you're not a man that you should lie. And so sometimes the healing is being held up because you haven't tapped into a Hagar mindset yet. You haven't tapped into, I need to ask myself the hard questions that the angel asked. And I need to go ahead and be obedient in what it is that God is asking me to do. Because most of the healing comes from God asking you to do stuff that for you may be difficult, but at the end of that is so worth it. After all of that, Hagar was able to say, "You are the God who sees me. You are the God who sees me." Isn't that the goal? So, your challenge, ask yourself the questions. The question that the angel asked. The question was Genesis 16, verse 8. I want you to put your name where it says Hagar. I want you to put your current title because it says Sarah's servant. And then the first question, where have you come from? And where are you going? And when you answer the question, where have you come from? I want you to base that upon the pain that you're currently running from. Where did it stem from? What's the source of that? Because he didn't ask her, where were you born? He didn't ask questions to try to get a connection on her family tree. He wanted to know what led you here. You're running from something. That attitude, that emotional stance that you have, your emotional intelligence, the act of it all. Like, can you trace that back for me? Where have you come from? And then in the middle of that, to kind of guard against any more future trauma, where are you going? Yeah, we're not going to just keep dating the same person, different social security number. We're not just going to keep changing states and realizing we're still in the same space. We're not going to come on, you understand, we need to do something different. Because at the end of it all, I want you to feel through and through, authentically, wow, God, you see me. And that's the goal. You understand? But all right, listen, I feel like you got what you needed. You know what these conversations are, though, right? They are life-provoking conversations. Conversations that not the average person's going to have with you, but who your favorite girl. Created. The number 2, multiply. You should be on the YouTube checking your girl out. No pressure, but pressure. Okay, great. You want to sow into the ministry? $ created. The number 2, multiply. Because guess what? These things cost the money, and the money is what it needs to cost. Okay, great. And Patreon. Strive, the letter N as in Nancy, inspire. Listen, we taking this encouraging thing to the next level. Okay. And if you want to follow all the happenings that are happening, created, the number 2, multiply.com. You heard me. I'm proud of us because I already know that we're not going to be the same. And whenever you're not the same, life feels better. That's just the way it goes. Okay. So you got websites and YouTubes and Patreons and Cash Apps and all these things to kind of go ahead and do. So I'm going to go ahead and let me go. Okay. We talk later. Absolutely. Later.